Viewers, for years altogether, Kashmiri Hindus who had survived the genocide in Pakistan have blamed Farooq Abdullah for betraying them. Viewers, for several years, those who survived the genocide in Kashmir have said that he was an enabler of the dance of death. For 32 years, Farooq Abdullah has denied the charge. For 32 years, he has said that he had demitted office when the genocide began. Farooq Abdullah has said, ask the late Jammu and Kashmir Governor Jagmohan, ask the late Prime Minister VP Singh, or the BJP that supported his government at the center. But viewers, Times Now has been able to carefully untangle his intricate web of lies. Today, the National Conference patron has nowhere to hide. A day after Times Now nailed his greatest deceit, Times Now challenged him to disprove our investigation. Our investigation, viewers, that put him, not Jagmohan, VP Singh or BJP at the center of the bloodiest instance of ethnic cleansing in recent history. We asked him to appear on your channel and stand up to the questioning instead of running to speak to sympathetic Lutyens media outfits content on giving him a platform and asking him lollipop questions. But of course, Farooq Abdullah has dodged us. He knows our questions will not stop at the year 1990, January 17th. But Times Now will ask him why he didn't pursue the ends of justice when he returned as Chief Minister 6 years later. What stopped him then? Why didn't the State Commission he set up to rehabilitate, to redress the grievances of Kashmiri Hindus cooperate with the National Human Rights Commission? Why was the NHRC indicting his government in the mid-90s, late 90s, early 2000s, for looking the other way, for not addressing the grievances of Kashmiri Hindus? Why did this committee that he set up not meet regularly to bring relief to affected Kashmiri Hindus? But for now, viewers, in the absence of his answers to us, in the absence of him agreeing to an interview with me on India Upfront, we will have to put up with his bullying, his defiance, his dodging, his ducking, his weaving. Listen to this, viewers.
Nothing to say.
But sir, there are allegations, sir. There are documents that shows that you were the chief minister, sir. At that point of time, you were the chief minister. Sir, the document shows it.
Don't push me.
सर हिंदी सर तो बीजेपी का जो आरोप है उसमें क्या कहेंगे सर? जो बीजेपी जो आरोप लगा रही है,
आरोप लगते रहते हैं।
वो कह रहे कि आप आरोप लगते रहे, वो कह रहे कि आपके सीएम रहते ही शुरू हो गया था कत्लेआम।
बिल्कुल वो कहते हैं।
तो आपको लगता है कमीशन अगर अपॉइंट होता है तो सच्चाई सामने आ पाएगी? उसमें
बिल्कुल आएगी, क्यों नहीं आएगी?
आप इसके लिए क्या सर कहेंगे? क्या मांगे?
I think they should appoint a commission, and that will tell them who is responsible.
Sir, but there are documents that show, sir, that you were at that point of time. You were. See, this is the document.
Well, that's what I tell you. Appoint a commission and put it before them.
लेकिन सर कहीं ना कहीं तो जिम्मेदारी बनती है
बीजेपी कह रही है कि आपके रहते हुए ही
आपकी जिम्मेदारी भी तो बनती है सर, अगर कश्मीरी पंडितों को विस्थापन होता है तो।
Sir, once.
I have told you. If you want to know the truth, they should appoint a commission.
you think you could have done more because see this document that
I told you, madam. Don't push me.
सर हिंदी सर जो बीजेपी का जो आरोप है उस पर क्या कहेंगे जो बीजेपी आरोप लगा रही है
आरोप लगते रहते हैं।
वो कह रहे कि
अमित मालवीय ने
आरोप लगते
वो
रहे।
कह रहे कि आपके सीएम रहते ही शुरू हो गया था खतरा।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल वो कहते रहे।
तो आपको लगता है कमीशन अगर अपॉइंट होता है तो सच्चाई सामने आ पाएगी उसमें?
बिल्कुल आएगी, क्यों नहीं आएगी? अपॉइंट कीजिए कमीशन।
आप इसके लिए क्या सर कहेंगे?
मैं कुछ नहीं कहूँ।
बीजेपी कह रही है कि जब आप सीएम थे तभी कत्लेआम शुरू हो गया था।
सर आपने जो जम्मू कश्मीर माइग्रेंट एक्ट लेके आए थे,
I think they should appoint a commission, and that will tell them who is responsible.
Sir, but there are documents that show, sir, that you were at that point of time you were. See, this is the document.
Well, that's what I think. Appoint a commission and put it before them.
लेकिन सर कहीं ना कहीं जिम्मेदारी
सर
See the key point, sir. This is the.
आपकी जिम्मेदारी भी तो बनती है सर अगर कश्मीरी पंडितों को
Sir, one.
I have told you. If you want to know the truth, they should appoint a commission.
you heard Farooq Abdullah there, viewers, demand a committee, a commission to probe the genocide. He's also spoken about how his heart bleeds for Kashmiri Hindus. Today, viewers, we fact check both his deceitful excuses. First excuse, appoint a commission to probe genocide. Fact check, viewers. A state-level committee was appointed under Farooq's tenure. The NHRC noted in 2000 the committee didn't function with regularity. The NHRC didn't receive cooperation, didn't prioritize problems of the Kashmiri Hindus. The NHRC that is referring to a committee that was set up by Farooq Abdullah when he returned as Chief Minister. So a committee was set up, viewers, a commission was set up. An inquiry could have unearthed the truth. But the committee hardly ever met. Isn't he responsible for why the committee hardly ever met? Or was the committee formed, viewers, as just an eyewash, lip service to the cause? These are two fundamental questions, Mr. Abdullah, that we want to ask you. Submit yourself to Times Now for an honest Q&A. We can go over the facts. Let's look at his second excuse. Farooq was not Chief Minister when Pandits fled the valley. His son has also said that, viewers. Let's fact check this. The J&K Migrant Immovable Property Act of 1997. Remember, I told you Farooq Abdullah returned to power. His government papers confirm the exodus began in his regime. Yes, viewers, and I have the paper right here in front of me. Here it is. In this particular act, drawn up by his government, passed by State Assembly in which he was the Chief Minister, the word migrant means a person who migrated after 1st November 1989. Now, viewers, Farooq Abdullah resigned office 18 January 1990, 11 weeks after his own act passed by his own government says the exodus began. So how can he say that he wasn't in power, that he had no clue? Go and ask Jagmohan, go and ask VP Singh, go and ask the BJP who was supporting VP Singh. Another set of questions that he needs to answer, viewers. Now let's look at excuse 3. He says, my heart bleeds for Kashmiri Hindus. I'm sure it does. I have no way of peering into his heart. But I just find, viewers, that there is a significant difference between what he says and what happened. Ex-Jammu and Kashmir DGP SP Vaid he told us that the Farooq government released 70 dreaded ISI-trained terrorists in 1989. Now, anyone, viewers, who had the interests of the Kashmiri Hindus would have known that to release Islamist terrorists was to give them a license to target the minorities. Remember, these terrorists, these terror groups are wanting to establish a caliphate in Srinagar. And for that, they would have to get rid of anyone that didn't follow their way of worship, their life, their religion, etc. Now let's look at his fourth excuse, which is pretty much the same. My heart bleeds for Kashmiri Hindus. I would want them back there as soon as possible. When you fact check this and you look at the actions, 18 cases against Yasin Malik lodged between 1987 and 89. These are the years when Farooq Abdullah was at the height of his power in Kashmir. Yet Yasin Malik, viewers, wasn't probed, prosecuted, or even convicted. In some of these cases, he has confessed his guilt. So, viewers, there are several of these anomalies which Mr. Abdullah has not answered. And now there's more breaking news coming in, because as viewers, these details are being exposed on Times Now, there are some who are beginning to distance themselves from the Congress and the larger ecosystem. Soldiers are beginning to desert the Congress. Vikramaditya Singh is quitting the Congress. Vikramaditya Singh, viewers, is the grandson of Raja Hari Singh. I want to go straight across to Pradeep. But before that, let me just play out what this Congress leader of long has had to say. Listen in.
हर एक लेवल पे ऐसा महसूस हो रहा था कि मेरी अपनी सोच और पार्टी की सोच कहीं पे मिल नहीं पा रही है। और हाल ही में जो विवाद कश्मीरी पंडित भाइयों को लेके दोबारा से उठा है, तो उसको लेके भी कई कांग्रेस नेताओं का जो रवैया रहा कि भाई नहीं, ये लोग अपनी मर्ज़ी से छोड़ के गए और इनकी कोई मजबूरी नहीं थी, इनके ऊपर कोई दबाव नहीं था। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि बहुत ही एक शर्मनाक और एक दुख दर्द बात है कि जो ग्राउंड रियलिटी है उससे इतने कटे हुए हैं कांग्रेस लीडरशिप और कांग्रेस पार्टी कि मेरा उनके साथ बने रहना संभव नहीं था।
Viewers, you heard that. You heard that, viewers. What a damning indictment of the Congress. Vikramaditya Singh, the grandson of Hari Singh, that Nehru and the Congress persuaded to ensure would yoke Kashmir to India, viewers, is quitting the Congress party. This association goes back, viewers, to 1947 of his family. His father, another very tall, long-standing leader of the Congress party, viewers. Today, this family is ashamed of being part of the Congress for not standing up for the Kashmiri Hindu community. Pradeep joins us. Pradeep, this is a big development. This is shocking.
Rahul, you're absolutely right. He's no ordinary man. He is a grandson of Maharaja Hari Singh, and Maharaja Hari Singh, the same person who had signed Treaty of Accession. If today we are talking about Jammu and Kashmir, it's because of Maharaja Hari Singh. He chose India, not Pakistan, because he knew that in Jammu and Kashmir is going to be safe with India. And second thing is that what is really important is that he is a son of Karan Singh. He's again a tall leader of the Congress party. So why he's in fact leaving Congress? Because he's fed up with the politics of deceit, deception and denial. See what exactly is happening. The ecosystem that was promoting terror was existing in 19, and the same ecosystem of mainstream political party leaders, they have joined hands, and again, they are trying to belittle sacrifice of Kashmiri Pandits. They are trying to discredit genocide. They are trying to dismiss their problem and exodus, and they're totally denying. And today, when I want to congratulate our colleague, Shirin Elizabeth, when she asked a very straight and direct question, something that Farooq Abdullah is not used to, because he's used to those lollipops and goody-goody question and the platform that is provided by the Latin media. Here on Times Now, we asked very direct and straight question, and he had no answer. He was a mute spectator at that time when voice for Nizam-e-Mustafa was raised. See, what was the slogan? Raliyo, Galiyo or Saliyo. Either you embrace Islam, either you flee from there, or you will be killed. So there was no choice for Kashmiri Pandits, and this man was completely acting as a mute spectator. He never ever raised a voice. You rightly said, since 1987 to 1989, 18 cases are against Yasin Malik out of 16 FIR against him. That means it was an encouragement and emboldenment of these people. So that is why we have seen that over the period of time, they kept on committing crime. Because Farooq Abdullah turned blind eye. He did not...
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Pradeep, absolutely shocking. This is a very, very stern indictment. Very, very stern indictment, and I'm hoping that our desk also puts it out as such. Viewers, what you're seeing is Vikramditya Singh, the grandson of Raja Hari Singh, who signed the instrument of accession, walking out because he says that Congress leaders have shamed this country by denying the genocide. Let's open this up. Denials, denials, denials. The only thing they're doing is discrediting the movie, viewers. That's their only defense. I want to open this up. I want to go straight across to Surinder Kaul, founder of the global Kashmir Pandit Diaspora. Mr. Kaul, we are hearing Farooq Abdullah, the National Conference patron, and Congress leaders today denying a genocide ever took place under their watch. They're saying, go ask Jagmohan, go ask VP Singh, go ask the BJP that supported VP Singh. How do you view this?
Hi, Rahul.
How do you view this, sir?
Hi, Rahul.
How are you, sir? Good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm right now in the lounge at the airport, heading back home to US. So, well, I have been listening to the statements coming from Dr. Farooq Abdullah and his son, Omar Abdullah. Now, let me go back to the timeline of terrorism. Actually, the terrorism bomb didn't blast on 19 January 1990. The ground had already been prepared, and since 1987 and early 1988, all the environment of Kashmir was changing. The theaters were shut down. Everything was being painted green. The timing of the watch was set to the Pakistan time, and all the slogans and grenade attacks had started. So basically, the ground of terrorism started in 1988, and in the early 1989, the speed of terrorism was significantly increasing, and the selected killings of the Kashmiri Hindus had started. When Tikalal Teplu Sahab was killed in a very barbaric way, and Justice Nilkant Ganju was killed in a most barbaric way. In fact, I was a physician doing my house job at SMHS Hospital, Government Medical College, Srinagar. I of Justice Nilkant Ganju. And when I opened his shirt, 3 bullets trickled down to the ground. And I was perhaps the eyewitness of all the mayhem that was happening. And that is the question I would like to ask the past Chief Minister of J&K, Dr. Farooq Abdullah, that whose government was in the center, whose government was in the state. He had all the access to all the information from the intelligence. He knew everything. And we demand that all the files should be declassified to see that he had access to all the information, but he is culpable of not acting. And in fact, he is culpable of facilitating and giving them all the free hand for what they were doing. And it is this is very unfair that when such a thing was happening, and the climax of this whole thing reached on 19 January 1990, The exodus had already started in late 89, but the way we saw that the whole government machinery had collapsed, judiciary had collapsed, law and order had collapsed, we were let to fend for ourselves. There was no recourse. And when we saw the all echoing of toxic slogans that "Rillu Tillu Gillu, Hum Kya Chahte Azadi, Azadi Ka Matlab Kya, La Ilaha Illallah," we were left for nowhere. And every family, and this was happening throughout all the villages, throughout all the districts of Kashmir, throughout all the cities of Kashmir. And we started that we have to fend for ourselves. Nobody will come to our rescue. And we didn't know, even my brother didn't know what is happening, and they were coming onto the road. And what is Dr. Farooq Abdullah saying? Who is culpable? We demand definitely a tribunal.
Okay.
And all the...
Let me bring in Lokesh Jindal, leader of the Congress. Sir.
Yes.
Multi-generation leader.
Good evening, Rahul. Good evening.
Multi-generational leader of the Congress party quits because he's ashamed of how some in your party are denying the Hindu genocide. How some in your party have taken to try and discredit the movie makers by suggesting that they're spreading hate rather than exposing those who used hate as a weapon to ethnically cleanse Kashmir of its Hindus. What greater indictment and what bigger impact of Times Now's investigative journalism can this not be, sir? Mr. Jindal, today a congressman is quitting over this.
Good evening, Rahul. Yes, I heard him, but I see it as another expression of gaslighting by a narcissist state. Now, if we look at the history, let me tell you that it was Karan Singh, son of Maharaja Hari Singh, who had insisted upon a special status to Jammu and Kashmir. It was Karan Singh who insisted that there has to be two flags, two heads of the states, and there has to be a complete autonomy with respect to Jammu and Kashmir. I'm giving you a very crude historical fact. And at that point of time, it was Maharaja Karan Singh who had insisted, who had in fact criticized the BJP, the Jan Sangh slogan of Ek Vidhan, Ek Nishan, Ek Pradhan. So when I'm talking about his grandson, his son, Vikramaditya, he's talking about Congress and Congress not connected to the people. It is hypocrisy. In fact, Congress, the idea of India that Congress nurtured, that formed the basis towards the state of India claiming sovereignty over Jammu and Kashmir, and people of Jammu and Kashmir reaching out to Congress. The idea of India that had been put forth by BJP is something which people of Jammu and Kashmir
Look, I'm
never
not
accepted.
understanding all of this. Your party agreed to all of these things. If it was so shameful, why did Nehru agree to all of this? Mr. Jindal, 1 second, please. Let me just come in here. 30 seconds, sir.
Nehru agreeing. We should
Nehru से आप पूछे भाई, इंदिरा गांधी से आप पूछे भाई, राजीव गांधी से आप पूछिए भाई कि why did they go along with Karan Singh and his demands? They could have absolutely struck down Article 370 अगर उतनी आपत्ति थी आप लोगों को उससे. सुनिए, दूसरी बात, आज की डेट में is not talking about Article 370 having been abrogated, which is pushing him out of the Congress. He is talking about,
yes, sir.
Mr. Jindal, he is talking about, and don't be clever by half, how Congress leaders have denied, have come out and denied that a genocide took place. Gaurav Bhatia, would you like to respond to the Congress spokesperson who is sitting here as an apologist for all of those who have enabled this genocide?
Rahul, first I would congratulate Times Now on this interview that has been taken. And there are some questions that the Indian citizenry is asking Mr. Farooq Abdullah, Omar Abdullah. You know, the tenure of Farooq Abdullah as the Chief Minister when this mass exodus happened was till 1992. And as facts would bear it out, he resigned on 19/1/1990. That's the fateful night when mass exodus happened, women were raped, and Kashmiri Pandits were brutally murdered. Now I ask myself that why would a chief minister who is needed the most by his own people resign when such a mass exodus is taking place, when there is complete anarchy, when all these people who do not believe in the constitution are brutally murdering Indians? It clearly appeared that this was a very well-planned, hatched conspiracy by Farooq Abdullah himself, and therefore I would say that he has been an equal participant, and his character is borne out by his statements in the recent past. On the abrogation of Article 370, he was seeking China's help. When Balakot airstrike happened and Pakistan was given a befitting reply, he said, Pakistan ne chudiyan to nahi pehen rakhi hain. So this, I think, is something very serious, and times have changed now under Narendra Modi ji. This will not be tolerated, and yes, this is a beginning, but people like Yasin Malik, terrorists, are now behind bars who were dictating the Kashmir policy to the former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji. Now coming to the Congress. A very important resignation by Vikramaditya.
Questions.
And let's not go back in
right
the past,
after he
because there are
finishes.
many mistakes
He didn't
that the
interrupt
Congress
you.
Party has made.
Can I come in?
One second, sir. He didn't interrupt any of you. Let him finish. Mr. Jindal also spoke and spoke and spoke. Let him finish. Then you can respond. No one is running away, sir. Only Farooq Abdullah is running away. Only Rahul Gandhi, who calls himself a Kashmiri Hindu, is running away from the questions. Yes, Mr. Bhatia.
Thank you, Rahul. So, the real reason behind this, because every Indian is ashamed of the Congress, and I'll tell you why. After this movie was released, do you know the response of the Kerala unit of the Congress Party? It said only 399 Kashmiri Pandits were murdered. However, there were around 15,000 Kashmiri Muslims. Now, this is the way to equate murders? That 399 lives don't matter, and a false narrative is being presented to every Indian that there were more Kashmiri Muslims.
Okay.
And that, I think, is a very valid reason for someone like Vikramaditya to resign, because today the Congress does not have an ideology which resonates with the people of our country.
Well, there you go. Even viewers, Vikramaditya Singh, the grandson of Hari Singh, the son of Karan Singh, has quit because he could not stomach the fact that his own party had turned into a genocide denier. Mr. Jindal, answer this question straight on. Take this question head on.
First of all,
are you delighted that Vikramaditya Singh has quit?
Yes, first of all, Congress and its ideology is very clear.
Very clear.
The party stands for truth. It is not going to succumb to this gaslighting that is taking place right now.
What gaslighting? Vikramaditya says you stand for lies, and that's why he has quit you.
BJP counterpart. If when we are talking about the Anantnag riots, who engineered the Anantnag riots? It was Mufti Saeed. If BJP was so much sincere, then why was Mufti Saeed made the Home Minister, under whose tenure all these forms of exodus and genocide happened?
Mr. Jindal, you answer the question straight off. All those other things are valid and they can be asked at another date. This is a very specific debate with regards to, sir, a genocide. This is about a genocide. You don't have an answer. Your own leader, a person who is a legatee of a 75-year-old association, is quitting you because he's accusing you of lies.
Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas.
Arey bhai, Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, this Nyas, that Nyas, I'm asking you. Why is Rahul Gandhi taking sannyas from this issue? I'm asking you, where is he?
Rahul Gandhi is very much there.
Where?
He is very much taking a stand against this authoritarian and dictatorship
What does he make of this?
And we are never going to give up.
No.
We won't let this form of
does he stand by the statement? Let me tell you, viewers.
Let
me tell you. Let me pull this out. Hang on. What is Digvijay Singh said? Does Rahul Gandhi as a Kashmiri Hindu approve? Because Vikramaditya doesn't. Vikramaditya Singh doesn't. And Vikramaditya Singh,
sir,
viewers, has more a claim on Kashmir than anyone there in the Congress party today. His father has more of a claim on Kashmir. His grandfather had more of a claim on Kashmir. That is why Mr. Nehru asked him to sign that instrument of accession than any Gandhi. And therefore I want to ask Rahul Gandhi, does he support Digvijay Singh when he says expert has happened when Congress was in opposition? Janata Dal government was supported by the BJP. BJP's objective is to spread hatred in the country when he links a movie to hatred. Does Rahul Gandhi support Digvijay Singh? Does Rahul Gandhi support Bhupesh Baghel, who said film shows then government backed by BJP didn't stop the exodus? It's a fib, absolute lie. Mallikarjun Kharge, PM Modi is trying to polarize the society. Why? Because he praises a movie that shows what happened and lifts the veil of 32 years of injustice. Cover up. Pandit issue suited BJP's propaganda. BJP engineered Hindu-Muslim divide. This is the Kerala Congress for you viewers. Vivek Tankha, senior Congress leader, advisor to Rahul Gandhi, came out and said Rahul Gandhi was moved with Pandit's pain. Rajiv had laid siege to parliament on the issue. Rajiv Gandhi, who has been quoted by MJ Akbar as having told a bunch of journalists that what can I do? I know the situation is very sad there. What can I do? But I have a friend in Mr. Farooq Abdullah. This is the extent of the Congress denial, and this is what Vikramaditya Singh is saying has hurt him enough to sever a 75-year-old association with the Congress party, viewers. And you have Lokesh Jindal talking about some nyas. Colonel RSN.
Sir, let me tell you first of all.
Colonel RSN Singh, 1 second, Mr. Jindal. You have nothing here to say. So you're clutching at straws. Answer not me. Answer Mr. Vikramaditya Singh. Answer your own political leader who has severed a 75-year-old association with your party. Don't ask me. Answer him. 1 minute, Colonel RSN. How do you react to all these Congress party people and these Farooq Abdullahs who have been exposed here on Times Now?
No, I'll only comment on Farooq Abdullah. You just heard a call, ventilating his pain and anguish against Farooq Abdullah, whose last Hindu forefather also happened to be a call, Raghuram call, and that is what Mazhab does. That is what Mazhab does. Here is a call who shares the same DNA with Farooq Abdullah, and he's absolutely right when he says that the stage had already been created. I can put it on record today on your channel that situation had become so bad, the period he is talking about, that the heads of intelligence of Indian agencies, they walked up to the army chief then and said that we have lost Kashmir. And the army chief told them that as long as the Indian army is there, we are not going to lose even an inch of territory. And he put in 2 divisions at that time. But then you had a government which was totally in the stranglehold. Even stranglehold is an understatement. Totally under the stranglehold of the Pakistan's ISI. In this exodus, the Prime Minister was an accomplice. The Home Minister, I don't know where was the reason to pick up this anti-nationalist Home Minister who got his own daughter abducted. To usher in global jihad, he was an accomplice. The Chief Minister, whom you are talking about, he was an accomplice. And last, not the least, I know now what I'm going to say is going to be very, very controversial. That had I been the head of the security in Srinagar, I would have just moved my vehicles on some logistics pretext or on a pretext of training, and let me tell you, this exodus could have been prevented. But probably to some people in the security agencies, I don't want to name them, some people in the security agencies, those threats emanating from the mosques was like music to them. And yes, investigations must be carried out. A commission must be set. But the terms of that reference of the commission, the suggested commission should start from 1338, when that is 222 kgs of sacred thread of Hindus who were murdered. That was another genocide, sir. That should be investigated. In 15th century, how the Martan temple was destroyed, that also needs to be investigated. It took 2 years for Butch Chicken to demolish that temple, and yet it stands very proudly, and you have people making songs there on that temple premises, crying for resurrection. तेरे बिना जिंदगी से कोई शिकवा तो नहीं? लानत है ऐसी उर्दू को.
Let me tell you, viewers, passions are running high. Importantly, viewers, patience is also running out now. Mr. Kaul represents a community on our
Allow me to come in.
panel. Yes, I will. Don't worry. On our panel that wants justice. Enough of the lip service. And Mr. Enzu Shah, I want to ask you tonight.
Rahul, my submission, I have to board my plane.
Yes, sir. Make your submission.
In next few minutes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Renzo Saab. You made some reference to the movie The Kashmir Files.
Okay.
Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora has been the initiator, the logistic, the research, and the intellectual partner of the whole movie of The Kashmir Files.
Yes.
And we see whosoever is questioning the movie, the Kashmir Files, they are questioning our genocide and exodus. I would like to clarify certain points. Some people are saying that it is the movie that spreads hate. That's not true. If you see this movie through the binary of Hindu and Muslim, if that is your perception, then possibly you will say like that. If you are a sympathizer of terror, you will say like that. This movie has no bashing. This movie has no bashing of any community. This movie has no bashing of Islam. This movie is purely about the impact of terrorism on human lives, how it destroys human lives. So this is not a movie that is spreading hate. And importantly, a genocide and ethnic cleansing of a peace-loving community happened in independent India. This has not been documented. And through this movie, this is being documented.
Okay.
Tomorrow we will say that we should stop teaching history because history spreads hate. It doesn't work like that. So second thing is the propaganda. We had collected 700 testimonials from first-hand victims of this genocide and ethnic cleansing, and in a very long video format. And this is absolutely truth and only truth. And those who are now speaking are perhaps the agencies who were responsible for keeping this whole genocide and exodus hidden under the rug. Now, since this whole thing is coming out, these are becoming very much impatient and impulsive in speaking out of order.
Very much impatient and impulsive. But the point is, sir, we can either give them the space to constantly propagate fakery, or we can ignore it and go about demanding what is the baseline here, which is justice. And I want to bring in Akib Renzu Shah. Mr. Shah, you're raising your hand. After what Times Now has exposed, can Farooq Abdullah neatly sidestep the blame? It's a simple question to you. Hope you can answer it simply.
See, Mr. Rahul, first of all, I am very sorry what happened with my Kashmiri brothers. And as you people are saying that Farooq Abdullah is responsible for that. But tell me one thing, I have one question for Mr. Bhatia. Wasn't his son in the NDA's regime? Wasn't he MOS in NDA's regime from 2001 to 2002? Question one. And second, what is their policy to return my Kashmiri Pandit brothers? Why they failed? I am telling you as a youngest elected representative, I want my Kashmiri Pandits back in my Kashmir Valley. Why they failed? And their properties were illegally occupied. What they are doing for that? They have failed. Yes, for substantially, let me take that Farooq Abdullah is responsible. But they were partners in a crime. His son Umar Abdullah was a MOS, Union MOS minister from from 2001 to 2002. Wasn't there knowing that Farooq Abdullah is responsible for that genocide? They are just diverting the nation.
Renju Shah, this question is not about BJP. No, 1 second, and the Congress and who let down whom. I am only asking a very simple question. And I began by saying, viewers, for a long time, the Kashmiri Hindu community has thought that Mr. Farooq Abdullah was one individual who betrayed them. That is also a fact, viewers. I'm only asking Renju Shah a simple, straightforward question. I'm asking Jindal a simple and straightforward question. But what do I get? I get a whole lot of selective cherry picking of this historical fact and that historical fact. No one is stepping up to the plate, putting their hand on their heart and saying, yes, Mr. Shivshankar, your 1 minute, Mr. Shah, let me finish, please. Let me finish.
Who lost their home?
Let me finish.
Tell me the policy.
I'm only asking a simple question. आपको इतनी तकलीफ क्यों हो रही है सच बोलने में कि फारूक अब्दुल्ला साहब जिनके नीचे मेरी बात सुनिए, क्या फारूक अब्दुल्ला जब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे, क्या श्रीमती प्रभावती, वाइफ ऑफ सोहनलाल भट्ट, a resident of Nagam, Chadura and Bagdam, was not brutally killed by terrorists? क्या एक FIR दर्ज नहीं हुआ था शहीदगंज पुलिस स्टेशन में? क्या उन लोगों को जस्टिस मिला? नहीं। क्या ये कश्मीरी हिंदू नहीं थे?
नहीं थे।
नहीं मिला ना? तो मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछता हूं रेंजू शाह साहब, मेरी बात तो सुनिए, मेरी बात सुनिए, मैं सब पूछ लेंगे हम, मेरी ये तो बात सुनिए। पहली एक, लेट्स गो क्रोनोलॉजी वाइज, नो, स्टेप बाय स्टेप, लेट्स गो स्टेप बाय स्टेप। रेंजू शाह साहब, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूं कि भाई अगर प्रभावती जी सोहनलाल भट्ट की जो धर्म पत्नी थी वो मारी गई फारूक अब्दुल्ला के राज के नीचे, जब श्री दीनानाथ रायना सन ऑफ ताराचंद हबाकदल के जो एक निवासी थे, इफ ही वाज शॉट डेड बाय टेररिस्ट, a case was registered in Shahidganj police station and no justice is done. And this also happens in 89. Do we not ask Mr. Farooq Abdullah and the Congress party who was there at the center?
Rahul ji,
नहीं गलत कह रहा हूं मैं कोई.
Let me respond to this.
I'm just asking you. There are many examples. Vijay Kumar Kapura,
Let me respond.
प्रेमनाथ भट्ट.
हमें होता है अपने अपने भाई को.
नहीं, मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूं, अबे मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछ रहा हूं सर, अरे मेरी बात तो सुनिए, मैं आज हिंदुस्तानियों की बात कर रहा हूं, मुसलमान भाई, हिंदू भाई, anyone who dies at the hands of Islamist terror, मेरी बात सुनिए सर, क्या हम उनके चीफ मिनिस्टर से सवाल नहीं पूछेंगे या पूछना नहीं चाहिए और सिर्फ बीजेपी से पूछना चाहिए 10 साल बाद क्या हुआ?
बिल्कुल पूछना चाहिए.
अच्छा, तो उनका दायित्व बनता है सर, is it their duty to answer and say yes, we messed up?
We have lost our Kashmiri brothers.
Yes, who's denying it?
We feel the pain.
We also feel the pain equally for your Kashmiri brothers, and we have been telling you, denounce. If you feel it, sir, let me ask you, Aqib Renju Shah. So मैं बताता हूं आपको, रेंजू शाह साहब, मैं आपको बताता हूं, आपके भी मारे गए, आप कह रहे हैं भाई, मुस्लिम भाई, किन्होंने मारा? पाकिस्तान ने मारा. आप रिनाउंस कर दो पाकिस्तान को, बोलो जिहाद गलत है, अभी बोल दो. नो नहीं बोलना सकते. देखिए यही तो प्रॉब्लम है मिस्टर रेंजू शाह. यू वांट द जिहाद, यू वांट द जिहाद, यू वांट द जिहादी, यू वांट द कैलिफेट, यू वांट द कैलीफ. And when they kill the people who oppose them, whether they're Hindus and Muslims, देखिए भाई, सब निकल गया.
He will not even condemn China.
सब निकल गया साहब, सब निकल गया बाहर. तेल का तेल, पानी का पानी.
He will not condemn China.
He won't condemn China. He won't condemn the jihadi mindset. He won't condemn the Burhan Wanis. He won't condemn the Yasin Maliks. He won't condemn the Gilanis. He won't condemn the Mirwais Umar Farooqs who are agents of Pakistan. He won't condemn Pakistan. He won't condemn terrorists like Lashkar-e-Toiba chief Hafiz Saeed. This is the problem, viewers.
Don't give us certificate.
This is the problem.
I don't need your certificate.
I don't need to give you a certificate. You are wearing your certificate on your छाती. I'm a terror sympathizer. आपने तो लिखा हुआ है, अपने माथे पे लिखा हुआ है. मेरे को कुछ नहीं करने की जरूरत सर. मेरे को बस सवाल पूछना आपसे. Anyhow, let's move on, viewers. Let's move on. Because let me tell you, Mr. Renzu Shah, youth leader of Jammu and Kashmir, Lokesh Jindal, leader of the Congress, they are not being exposed by Times Now, viewers. Today, they are being exposed by their own brothers and sisters. I don't need to say anything. We just heard Mr. Kaul, we just heard Mr. Vikramaditya Singh. In fact, if you're under any doubts, let's play out Mr. Vikramaditya Singh again.
Mr. Rahul,
Mr. Vikramaditya Singh, who has walked out of the Congress party, ending a 75-year association of his family with the party, saying he's disappointed because the Congress party is denying a genocide took place. Listen to this, viewers.
हर एक लेवल पे ऐसा महसूस हो रहा था कि मेरी अपनी सोच और पार्टी की सोच कहीं पे मिल नहीं पा रही है। और हाल ही में जो विवाद कश्मीरी पंडित भाइयों को लेके दोबारा से उठा है, तो उसको लेके भी कई कांग्रेस नेताओं का जो रवैया रहा कि भाई नहीं, ये लोग अपनी मर्ज़ी से छोड़ के गए और इनकी कोई मजबूरी नहीं थी, इनके ऊपर कोई दबाव नहीं था। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि बहुत ही एक शर्मनाक और एक दुख दर्द बात है कि जो ग्राउंड रियलिटी है उससे इतने कटे हुए हैं कांग्रेस लीडरशिप और कांग्रेस पार्टी कि मेरा उनके साथ बने रहना संभव नहीं था।
There you go, viewers.